Welcome to the Versus Men's podcast, where we're having real conversations and stories on faith, manhood, relationships, culture, and everything else in between. These conversations are tough, but we're honestly doing them because we have to become the men of God that He's called us to be. You aren't the only one who's trying to figure out your faith, your marriage, or you're struggling with an addiction. That's why this podcast exists. So thanks for listening, and if you enjoy this content, like, subscribe, and send it to a friend who needs it. Thanks for joining. Welcome back to the Versus Men's podcast. Today's guest is Mike Fisher. You've heard his name from being the former captain of the Nashville Predators, but he's also a man who's helped start Versus Men's ministry. And so you're going to hear a lot more today about the man Mike Fisher than the hockey player. And quite frankly, I think you're going to enjoy that quite a bit. Before we get into it, we just want to remind you that Versus Men's Night is on sale right now, and it's going to be May 9th. And so we have Granger Smith speaking. It's going to be an incredible night that you're not going to want to miss. Mike will be speaking as well, along with former MLB All-Stars Chase Headley and Stephen Wright. Mike, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
So we normally hold the rapid fire questions for the end of the episodes, but for you, I was like, let's hit them right early for Mike and peel back the layers of your life. And let's just start with the most hockey we're probably going to get. Comes in our first rapid fire question of who hit you the hardest during a fight in your career?
I don't remember getting hit hard in a fight, but the hardest I got hit was probably Francis Boscheman. Caught me really good. I ended up missing a couple games with a concussion, open ice hit that didn't end well for me. So. But a fight, I got fortunate in those for the most part. So,
who do you think you hit the hardest?
I don't remember his name. He never played much, but in an exhibition game in Washington, I got in a fight with a guy that he kind of came after me, and I got a hold of him pretty good. And I know my buddy saw him after the game and said he was not looking very, very good. So I think that was probably, but
you decided you realized he was not wise. Yeah. Favorite city to play in?
I liked playing in Montreal, kind of old school crowd that's, but in the playoffs it's insane, but it's kind of a cool city. When I was playing in Ottawa, I loved to come to Nashville. I would have said Nashville just because it's just it's kind of unique. There's not one like it as far as everything, so but I like playing in Montreal. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. What would you say is your hardest or worst moment during a game? Like that you wish, oh man, if I only did this or that better during a game?
I don't remember one moment. I remember a blooper moment that we played the whole team. We were in Madison Square Gardens, and I caught an edge and I tried to hold it. And if you saw the clip, I'll try to explain the best I can, but I caught part of an edge and then I was off balance and basically looked like I was figure skating and then I ended up hitting the boards and bailing. And so the next day they played it in front of the whole team as a blooper clip and everyone is dying. And it was one of those, I tried to save it. I couldn't. And you're in Madison Square Gardens. Everyone's laughing on the ice. What is happening? But, if you can pull that clip up, maybe if you can find it, then it would help bring some context to this. Best moment. I had a lot of great moments from, first goal to was third overtime goal here in the playoffs. And I had lots of great moments, but lots of disappointing moments, obviously losing. I lost the cup twice in the finals and, but lots of great memories of playing in Ottawa and here in Nashville. And I was grateful to fool a lot of people for a long time.
That's way too humble. All right. What if you had to drive one car or truck for the rest of your life? What would you choose?
Oh, I'd have to go with the Prius. If anyone knows me, it would not be a Prius.
Something tells you.
It'd be a pickup truck. I'm driving a Ram right now, and any big pickup truck, I love love to drive. I like my Ram right now, so yeah.
Okay. Who has a more embarrassing story of how they met their wife? You or me?
Definitely you. 100%.
Okay, let me give context to this. Let me give just here. I'll own my part. Okay.
Yeah.
So I met my wife Kristen at I won't even name the school at a small Christian university. At the time, it was small. It's now much bigger, and we both went to public school. She was actually there on a cheer scholarship and wasn't even a believer. She later came to faith in Jesus, but we had met. I'm trying to think, like 4 months into being at school there, they had this thing called a man auction, and I was elected in my dorm. It was not my own will doing this. Just putting that out there again.
Taking one for the team.
Taking one for the team. Okay, and I was elected and I had to fill out this questionnaire, and I was bought with Bible bucks by my wife. And it was the most embarrassing thing that I now can say. But it was, and because I was so against this, I filled it out with the most jerk, like, what would be the perfect date? And it was like, she comes, picks me up, takes me out, takes me to a movie, pays for it all, walks me back to my door, and she kisses me and says, "See you later," and Kristen literally bought me because she's like, all I date is jerks. So why not just go with this guy? And then it later was revealed as me because it was blind man auction with Bible bucks. So with all that being said, Mike, you're throwing it at me. No, man. Like you were, what did it feel like to be the old man sitting in a VIP meet and greet as you were waiting to meet your future wife?
It was a humbling experience for sure. I thought that, I mean, we obviously had a connection to meet at the show. So I figured, well, I'll get backstage passes, whatever. We'll meet on our bus or, whatever. And
how it played out in your mind versus reality is very different.
And I get there and I meet a friend of mine who was connection in her band. And he's like, yeah, we're going to go through meet and greet. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, that's what we're doing. So I go through meet and greet, a bunch of little girls and, fans. And I try to get to the back of the line. And as I'm trying to get to the back of the line, I think I'm at the back of the line. And I was with a buddy at the time. And I think I'm at the back of the line, getting kind of closer to just saying, hey, she knew I was coming. And then I look back and a rival of mine that played for the Leafs at the time was there with his little daughter. He's like, what are you doing here? I was like, nothing. So anyways, we said hello and in meet and greet, which had like 2 minutes, but that was kind of her filter. If he's weird and I don't like him, then I won't have to, deal with him after the show or
Carrie.
in her space. And so the filter, I guess I passed, but we ended up going out for a bite to eat after with her band and friends and stuff. And we really didn't go on a date for like 3 months, talked on the phone, which was really good. Yeah. It helped. Yeah. So
but at any point in that line, did you think, I just feel like a creeper being here? Or did you keep it together because you knew why
she put me in there? Yeah. So, I mean, I wasn't
You're a team player.
But, so that was a little bit of pressure, but it was all good.
Yeah. Well, you guys listening, you can let us know who has the more embarrassing story. I'm still going with you.
I don't know. Bible books beats them all.
Dude. All right. Next question. Okay. So Mike, what do you think is the best quality about yourself in your mind and in Carrie's? And before I even let you answer that, Mike, I'm not talking physical qualities or.
I was not thinking that. Don't worry. Well, my chin, maybe. Yeah. Jay Leno chin. There you go. I'm going to just go with what I think my wife would say.
Wise.
And I think that she would say, this is hard, but I think she'd say I'm reliable and I'm trustworthy. I guess one of the reasons why I say that, we've never had, issues with trust in our marriage. Obviously, we could live a little bit of a different life with travel and stuff. So that's been kind of core to us. Neither of us is worried about what the other person is doing and trust each other and in each other's character and stuff. So that's been really nice and helped our marriage. And, I think one of the things that with, she's gone periodically and I'm with the kids and, for a week or two at a time, and she's totally comfortable with me with all ages, really. Like I've had to, which is one of the benefits of retiring and having kids a little bit later. I'm able to do that. So I think she would say that I'm reliable with the kids. She never has to worry. She feels very confident. I'm with the kids for 2 weeks, whatever it is, I got it. She knows that. And I kind of take pride in that too, of just being kind of like stay at home dad in a lot of sense. And I love it. It's a different job than taking hits and punches from people. I take hits and punches from 5 and 9-year-olds right now, but
Exactly.
but in lots of different ways, physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
But
We'll get to that. Don't worry.
I think she would say that I'm trustworthy and honest. I would hope some maybe my greatest qualities. So
Yeah, no, and it's, dude, I remember one of the first times meeting you, I think we were out to lunch and you're like, I think people probably project onto you guys thinking like, oh, they have just everything made for them. And what they probably don't realize is like, you are very involved. Like, I remember you being like, oh, I got to stop by the grocery store. We're out of, we got to get more snacks for this. And I mean, you were the one picking up, the boys and stuff like that. And I think what it models is like your view of fatherhood is to be present, is to be involved. And that's one of the reasons why I want to have you on the podcast is like you've modeled so much of what we've talked about and you're just living it out. And that's why, I mean, for someone who helped found this ministry, really, man, I totally see that. What do you think, would you say would be your most annoying quality that you or Carrie would say?
she would say that I'm not overly neat. I'm kind of all over the map a little bit. I'm trying to get better as far as keeping that,
Do you
things
still
in the
do you
house
put your
and-
clothes in the clothes hamper?
No, yeah, sometimes.
Or do you
but
put it
ends up,
as I do now? I just
Yeah.
put it right next to it to know there was effort.
Exactly.
It landed close.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the right vicinity. I know where it all is. Yeah, I would say that.
Just being neat to her mean a lot.
Yeah, she likes kind of structure, and we're different. Well, I would say one of the things is that I kind of stretch her in ways that if it wasn't for me, she would not leave the house. So she says I have way too many friends, and she's like happy with her friends, and it's like she doesn't want any more, and she so we're different in a lot of ways, but she doesn't like going out to things if she doesn't have to, and which I get because she's busy and traveling and doing all this stuff. Of course, she wants to be at home, but I'm at home, and then she gets home and I was like, okay, well, let's So I've had to kind of we've had to kind of work through that, but yeah, I think she would say that I have too many hobbies.
You do.
Yeah.
You fill your time in healthy ways. That is a positive to it.
Yeah.
Well, so let's go with favorite cheat meal.
Probably pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza. All right, that's good enough. Favorite cheat snack that
Ice cream.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I love ice cream. And although when I was playing, like I have a exercise induced asthma.
Oh, really?
So I'm all like, you would have heard me in the locker room. My goodness, all the guys like, I'm like, because I'd have phlegm, but it was like my lungs, creating that. So I'd had puffers and all that stuff, But so ice cream it's not good for your
that
phlegm
creates
situation,
yeah.
like mucus and stuff. So when I was playing, I had to kind of be careful, but it was my,
it's your weakness. We get it.
Exactly.
Favorite movie?
I would have said it. I mean, would have said probably Shawshank Redemption back in the day, but
that's a good.
I'm not a movie guy. Honestly, I don't really watch a lot of movies. That being said, interesting enough, watched a movie last night that was pretty good. I thought it was. I Can Only Imagine.
I can only about the singer from
Bart Miller.
Yeah.
Mercy Me.
No, that's great.
We both cried.
Look at you.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm an easy crier, but that one it was good.
Look at the security. It's you saying I'm an easy crier just for all the podcasts.
Ask my wife. I cry way too much.
Okay. Favorite band or music?
Man,
you gonna own the
I
Goo Goo
don't
Dolls
know.
right now?
Yeah, I liked Goo Goo Dolls. Carrie makes fun of me for that one. She's like, "Are you kidding me? That's."
Yeah. I was a
I
little
like Goo Goo
surprised when I heard
Dolls.
that.
I like. I mean, you too. I liked. You know, 1,000 Foot Crutch. I listen to a lot of them. Um, but
That's
I
good
don't have
answers.
one diehard like.
No, we will gladly accept U2 or 1,000 Foot Crutch. Goo Goo Dolls, I think we're going to reject that for the time being. Favorite book outside the Bible. Don't you say that. I literally put that in because I knew you'd be like, the Holy Scriptures.
uh, well, recently, which I know
Yeah.
we've done together, Voice of the Heart by Chip Dodd. And I've read that twice, I guess, in the last year, done a few groups. And that's one of those books that, like, I'll admit, like, I'm not the smartest guy. I never did much for school and finished high school. I feel like, I'm not. And that one made me feel like I was a kid reading. Like, I'm like, this is all foreign to me. The emotions and how God created us and how it all works together, and like what I was learning about myself. And then you get done and you're like, wait a second, there's so much more, and read it a second time, you learn so much more. And now it's like there's so much depth to it and how much I learned. And that's a really good book that I recommend. And it's funny because that book, I had multiple friends over probably prior 2 years that were like, hey, just you need to do this book. Get a group of guys, do this book. And I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And then another guy'd say, I'm telling you, you know. And then it just kept happening. I was like, all right. And then finally I was able to read it. And now I know why, because there's so much good stuff in that. And I've kind of passed that book on to a lot of people that's been really helpful.
Yeah, it's too
Doesn't
good.
matter where you are, in your journey or life, that one's a real good one for sure.
And if you didn't catch it, guys, it's Chip Dodd's Voices of the Heart. And it takes you through how to really interpret your emotions, understand them, and just what you may be working through while you feel those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those books, Mike, that like I think I've twice now. And like the second time, whereas my world was being turned upside down a little bit the first read, the
Mm-hmm.
second one I feel like time I'm doing more work of like, okay, I'm now catching myself in these,
Yeah.
times where you can actually exercise more of the discernment aspect of it. But no, that's a great book. That's awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and Mike. Well, those were our quick fire, and so
Not so
let's
quick fire.
no, not so
Sorry.
quick.
That's on me.
No. This is Mike. That was the point.
Yeah.
We're gonna be like an hour and a half. You never know.
Yeah.
How would you say, like Mike? And I want to focus more on the last year. How has God been growing you as a follower of Jesus first off? And these will all blend together, and we can go down as many rabbit trails. But like as a follower of Jesus, as a husband, as a dad, because there's been a lot of work,
Yeah, I would
good
say,
work.
I mean, a lot of it, that book that I've been through a few times with two different men's groups. I've had the opportunity to meet with who Ken Baugh, over the last year. Met with him. He's a former pastor, and he's a PhD in psychology, and just become a real close friend that has helped me walk through some of the emotion stuff, some things from my childhood that kind of shaped me in my faith. And I had a great upbringing, and great parents and all that. But there's lots of things that kind of recognizing that have shaped me, even from being an athlete, and how that's shaped you know performance driven faith that I didn't realize I was doing. And then it's into your marriage. I'm a 1 on an Enneagram. It's kind of, you kind of do the things and check the boxes, and I'm disciplined and structured for the most part. I wasn't as an athlete. As an athlete, I wasn't really big into like X's and O's. That was fine with those, but it was like, okay, I got to work harder. If things aren't going well, okay, work harder. Got to do all these things. I got to eat right. I got to work harder. I got to do all the things. And then I realized I was doing that in my faith too. Okay, I got to have all these structured disciplines. And then I was in my marriage. Okay, I got to lead this way, do all these things, check these things. Well, all along, I realized in a lot of ways I was missing the heart, the depth in my relationship with the Lord at times, and in my connection in my marriage, and how I was relating to her. Because I was doing all the things, and then I
Would
realized
you
that a
say
lot of
you were
times I
seeing
was,
like you were seeing the role, you weren't seeing her for how she thought that
yeah,
would, yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah, and missing, connecting her because I was just worried about doing the things for me and not really, okay, what does she need? What does she? But so I've learned how to lead, I think, in a much better way, realizing, the need, a little more vulnerability. I mean, I was probably, guilty of trying to pretend things are fine when they're not, I think we all have some of that in us for sure. And just being real with the right people, safe people, some of my struggles and, you know, over the years but, it's helped me, now it's the emotional part of kind of working through that. It's also helped me with my son too, 9, he's for highly emotional, like, so kind of working through those things, trying to lead him in a way that's not just you can't cry, suck it up.
Yeah.
That's not giving him what he needs if and my tendency is like suck it up, don't cry, get it
Let's get through it. Yeah.
together, and you're fine. But that's not a way to lead. And so I've learned a lot, still learning how to parent, try to parent my boys, give them what they need emotionally, spiritually, how to lead them in a way that's, freeing for them and not just kind of behavior modification, which is really hard to do.
Yeah. As ones, we want the
Really hard to
behavior
do.
modification. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's been a lot, I've learned a lot, and I guess the biggest thing I've learned is like, we all need people like, Ken. I've had different mentors in my life.
Mhm.
There were different stages. We all need those people that you can, you know, sit with and work through stuff and, whether it be, marriage or a dad or whatever is going on in your life, struggles and fears and, all those things and try to make sense of it all, try to grow through it, try to, and at the same time just trying to get closer to God and your walk with him. But
Yeah. And that's something that, one, I think it's important that you brought up about even you had a great upbringing. And even if you have a great dad, that doesn't mean they were great in every area. And that if there's scorecards for different responsibilities as a father, and you can knock them mainly out of the park, and then in other ways not. And that's just them doing the best they can often.
yeah.
And you have to accept that. And that
Hmm.
even as we're dads now, I have to have that self examination before God of like, where am I doing great and where am I not?
Yeah.
And hopefully one day Noah sees me like that of
Yeah.
I really tried in the areas that I know I'm not great at,
Hmm.
being patient when he is yelling at me, stuff like that. Uh, my older one is definitely more the highly energetic and sensitive with emotions,
Hmm.
and my younger one, Madeline, is just like chill. And
Hmm.
they're very different spectrums of how to parent because you have to treat them as like little people.
Yeah.
You can't just if behavior modification works for a while, but then you'll eventually realize there's a distance between like are they trusting you as a parent or are they just trusting you as an authority figure?
Hmm.
And those are two different things.
Yeah, and like, one of the things with my oldest, he's emotional, great. He's got a sympathetic heart. He's a great kid, but he just talks so much, and he has a hard time not like if it pops in his head, he's got to say it, and it gets him in trouble, at school, and he has a hard time controlling his tongue, not in a cursing way, and just he always has to be talking when he shouldn't be, or say something, or so it's like, well, I can discipline him, which there are consequences for for actions, absolutely. But like, how do I kind of come alongside and encourage him and lead him so that he becomes the kid that can control his tongue, that can say no, that can work on those things, and it just takes time and patience. And I'll be honest, I'm not patient. I need to. It's one of the things I need to work on, and you know. Sometimes I get mad at God, honestly, that it's like, man, I'm just not patient, and knowing that God can change something like in a heartbeat and he
Yeah.
doesn't, I'm like, then it always brings me back to surrender. Okay, I know I'm not God, I'm not, but that stems, I think, from that impatience and which I guess is part of that's, some anger stuff too, I guess.
Yeah,
Working through.
it bleeds together. Well, it's hard for
Yeah.
me, like when Noah's a little bit the same way, and you know, I'm demanding him to change right away when that's not how change works in our life.
Right.
You know, it's more my lack of patience is actually far more to do just with me than it is
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah.
And it's actually if I have learned that like I need to realize I'm actually being so selfish to think of a 5-year-old is going to
Mm-hmm.
change his posture towards me. Well, he's just man, he doesn't know what he's doing half the time,
Yeah.
you know, and he's just a, like a ball of energy. So how am I as the adult modeling when I feel uncomfortable? And one day
Mm-hmm.
he'll realize this when he has kids. Like it will come full circle. And how did I posture myself at least kind of to be patient?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, even when I'm not patient, the amount of times I need to apologize to him
Yeah.
and just modeling that to him.
Yeah, that is the like the reconciliation of that is the most powerful part of, I think, even parenting, even when you mess up. And that's one of the things I've tried to do with Isaiah too, which I've been kind of coached to uh, to do from wise people, but that just saying like, man, I sometimes I'll mess up, I'll raise my voice, I'll get way too stern with him, or whatever it is, and just be like, hey, you know what, like, well, first of all, like saying you're sorry, but then asking for forgiveness, and just saying, hey buddy, like that's why I need the Lord too,
Mhm.
like, and that reconciliation of him recognizing that he doesn't have a perfect dad, and I don't want him to think that I'm pretending that I'm perfect, or but like, if our kids don't see our desperate need for the Lord, why would they ever think that they need him?
Amen.
And that's like,
Amen.
that's what I really want. And yeah, I think if our kids also know, which there, there's a level of maturity that, but if they really know kind of our goals as a parent, okay, this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is our goals. We are not perfect. We're just trying our best. Like,
Yep.
we're trying our best. We love you. We want you, and that's kind of the, communicating to them, and them knowing your heart too, for that. But
No, and that's like it. I mean, maybe this would be embarrassing to share, but I mean, I think other guys are probably there too. Is like over the last like 2 months, there's a few times where I raised my voice at Noah when he's just like done some things that like that were clearly not okay. Do
yeah.
not like push your sister down when you're running around the house on purpose. And so I'll raise my voice at him.
Hmm.
But like it's the last like 2 weeks, he's done like one or two things wrong, and then he takes off and he'll go to like hide, under his bed or whatever. And like the last week it was just a mistake, like an accident of what he did.
Hmm.
He like knocked over like a cup of something, and he immediately took off. And I was like, buddy, where are you going? And he goes, you're gonna yell at me, I don't like that. And took
Hmm.
off underneath his bed, cut me in two.
Yeah.
Like, and then we had to sit there, you know uh underneath, like he was underneath his bed, I can't fit under there, and just talk of like, no, I'm so sorry that you make a mistake and you think you have to run.
Hmm.
I don't mean to yell. Sometimes I get frustrated. I don't mean to
Hmm.
take it out on you. I love you. And to walk through that, like actually saying sorry to your kid
Yeah.
as almost as if they're an adult, you know?
Hmm.
Because I think they actually clearly he has taken note of how I respond to him.
Yeah.
So in anger. So how do I model that in reconciliation, like you said? And that's just a parent's journey of
Well, and like sometimes, and I've been there too before, but like sometimes you just got to get their attention too.
yeah.
But
Yep.
it's like, it's, man, it's, yeah, parenting's hard. I felt when they were younger, it was more physically,
Yeah.
and it's just making sure they're not dying
Yeah.
and keeping them alive,
Goal number one, keep them alive.
and
Yeah.
then now it's into the really the leading, as they get older. 9-year old now, he's 9 today. It's like working through those emotions, and you know seeing him kind of, some of his tendencies and stuff, and like, yeah, it's not easy, and
Dude,
we only
not
have two, so
yeah.
yeah.
You brought up mentors earlier, and I think that's what has stuck out to me is like it's clear that you have sought after mentors Was that something you always did even back playing in hockey? Like, was it because you come from the coaching, you've been coached for so long that it helps, that's something that's natural to you? I think that's something that a lot of men probably struggle with that seems to come natural to you, though.
Well, I wouldn't say my first mentor back when so it was my cousin, Warren, and we ended up living together second year that I was in Ottawa. And he'd come to live with my family when I was younger, my parent, to go to a college. So he lived with our family. He was 7 years older than me. And then he ended up moving to Ottawa, which was where I played early in my career. So we got a house together, and him and his wife, he was married at the time. And so it was just me living with them. And it was kind of just you know, why not? We'll live together. I had been struggling in my faith, making bad decisions, and kind of, you know, partying and doing the thing as a 19, 20-year-old.
Mhm.
And then at one point, I think he'd probably seen enough and, was like, yeah, let's start doing Bible study. And so we did. And then that led to kind of recommitment of my life to the Lord, and, was baptized. So he helped me walk through that.
When you
And
were in
so he
that
ended up being like my mentor that I still talk, I'll see him in a few weeks. He's coming to visit, and he's just one of those guys he's just awesome and helped me. And like, without, I can't imagine without now. And God put him in, it wasn't like I was seeking out. I was 19, 20.
Yeah.
So then after that, my next guy that was really important in my life, his name's Tim Burke. He's a former pitcher, and he was in hockey ministries. And so we became really close, and he'd do chapels throughout the league. And so I just kind of realized, I needed people like that in my life, and we became real close. And he was a guy that probably next to Warren, knows me better than anyone. And so I'm still close with him. And then I've gotten to know Ken. Ken was one of those kind of friend of a friend I met, and had one lunch with him. And at the end, I was like, whatever you got time for me, because I know, like, I know, you know, without those people in my life that really, like, these are godly men, all
Mhm.
three that I've just mentioned. And I've had others that have had significant impact on me, but those are the ones that kind of different stages were like really clear, and we've had a lot of depth to our relationships. But I realized that, without the Lord, I'm lost cause, and I'm still with him, still work in progress. And those people, like, we all need those people that you can, that know everything about you,
Mhm.
know everything you've done, all your struggles. And when you do that, when there's that level on both sides, then there's kind of I don't know, we all need that.
Mhm.
We all need those people and those were all people that were older than me, wiser than me, that I know that I want to spend as much time, because my goal is to be, to be a godly dad and husband, and being around those people is only going to help. So, and fortunately, I've created some margin in my life since I retired. I've never taken on like a full-time job. Now I stayed plenty busy doing lots of different things. But I've created some margin where I'm able to do that too, which is really, I feel like it's important, especially this stage of life
Yeah.
where I'm at. So,
Well, and that's the thing is like even someone who doesn't have your schedule. I mean, guys, we've talked about it in the Pike Williams podcast, but you have to invest in a community where you're actually seen and known
yeah,
and heard no matter what you're going through, because there's so much freedom when you can look at someone and be like, this is actually how I feel,
yeah,
what I'm going through.
yeah.
And there's not judgment in response to it, but it's more, how do we walk alongside of you?
Yeah, and yeah, in non-judgmental ways, because like as soon as you do that, and they're like, okay, most guys struggle with all the same things, trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good husband, trying to just get through the week for the most time.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's a struggle, and then there's, tack on, heartache and pain and loss and all these other things that can get piled on. Some obviously way more than others. Some, there's lots of, but there is just, and then tack on the enemy that knows us and
Mhm.
knows our playbook, knows our weaknesses, knows all those things. there's something to be said about having people that you can just be like, okay, crap, you know, whatever it is, I'm struggling. This is how I'm really feeling. And because I'd gone, obviously, growing up, I left home at 17. Then 17, 18, I was, away living with a different family. Then I lived with another family in my first year. Then I lived with my cousin, as I mentioned. And then I was single for a long time. And then I met Carrie at 27. But I just didn't realize how long I was lonely. Like, no, and there was times like when I had good with certain people, I had like close relationships, but my schedule, I'm always traveling. So there's a lot of times where, man, it's so easy to get lonely. You can be surrounded by so many different people, and it's like, why am I like feeling like this? Why am I, it's like, oh, okay. Even inside marriage, if you're not like intentional about, okay, hon, how are you feeling? How are that's hard to do. But when you do it, and it's like, okay, there's that connection, but
And to not
it's
fake
like,
it
okay,
too.
yeah, well, yeah, I was like, honestly, like, not doing great, or this is how I'm kind of angry or sad, or this hurt. Sometimes it's hard to do. Honestly, honey, when you said that hurt, or
Use your
but
I statements, not you
exactly.
statements.
But we need to be reminded. The thing about us, especially guys, is I need to be reminded every day. And I think that's why we need to be in the Word of God every day too. And even that takes like an intentionality of like, hey, calm, I can't think about my day. This is going on. Like, okay, just you and me, God. How many times do we actually do that too?
Yep.
It's easy to read.
We
I'm
can look at
guilty
our
of that.
schedule the minute we wake up and be like, I'll do it later.
I'm
And
okay
later
doing
is
it,
not.
but it's being intentional and actually listening and slowing my like thoughts and mind down to, okay, this is, because again, I can get caught into do the things, get up. I'm okay getting up and reading and praying and all those things, but sometimes it just becomes the thing, and it's not a heart. I miss the heart. Back to that again. That's where I got to be like, okay, slow down, calm my heart. What's God saying to me?
Yeah, I think for a lot of men too, it becomes a task when
Mm-hmm.
it's really, you need to meet Jesus in the scriptures. You
Yeah.
need to ask the Spirit to illuminate something in the words on that page that you need to wrestle through in your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when it becomes a head knowledge of like, what did I learn about scripture today?
Yeah.
What did I learn about God? I think even maneuvering our language to where did I meet God and what am I wrestling with because of that?
Uh-huh.
It becomes personal again.
Yeah.
And I think that's even as a pastor, I sit there and wrestle with that, especially when you're like, oh, I have this content I could create out of this. And I have to leave that at the door
Yeah.
and first be shepherded by the good shepherd,
Mm-hmm.
And that means that I can't be thinking through places I could use this. And that's, you're right, Mike. It's like that goes for any of us,
Yeah.
with are we just doing it, going through the motions versus actual life change because of us dwelling with God in the scriptures.
Yeah, for sure.
So what you talked a little bit about habits, but like on a daily basis, what would you say, like, and no one's perfect, but like on an ideal day, what are your habits like?
We've got a pretty good routine now. It's gotten better with our kid, when the kids are up at early. So we end up getting up, or we get up pretty early so we can, do our cold plunge and wake up. And then that's new, which is actually, it's pretty good. Yeah.
How long did it take you to get used to it?
Not that long. And I used to do some when I was playing, hot, cold, all that stuff, but it doesn't take that long. But
If you tell me that you pray while you're in there, don't combine that.
no.
Yeah, you're just trying to
Actually,
survive.
I did once. There was one thing, and yeah, I've done it. I have, but it's not that I'm just breathing and trying to get through it, to be honest, for most of the time. But
What
I
temp are
have
you
prayed.
doing?
Oh, it's only like high 40s or low 50s. But so do that, and then we try to get up at least half hour before our kids so we can have a coffee and read, and then I just usually read and
Do you guys try to
journal
read
and
the
stuff.
same thing or
No,
separate?
sometimes she's actually usually up a little bit before me because she's not really a morning person, so it takes her a little bit of time. But sometimes we've done some stuff, read some stuff together, but kind of just depends. But I like to journal too. I started journaling a few years ago, kind of prayer journals and writing thoughts and kind of just It helps me, even though I don't like to write, but it doesn't have to be much,
Do
but
you like it because you can look back and see what God's done,
well, yeah, there's been, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
or just writing it on paper helps?
Writing it on paper helps me for sure. Yeah. Looking back, that's happened a few times where it's like, oh, remember that? That's, but just writing it out, I think for me sometimes helps me kind of think through at least my day and kind of what God's kind of
No, that's what
saying.
when guys tell me like, I'm just not connecting with the Lord, I feel like my time it's just dry. One of the first thing, well, what are you journaling about? Like,
Yeah.
are you reading something, contemplating it, and you know praying through it, and then writing next to a journal of like, hey, nothing today.
Mm-hmm.
Even writing down right now, I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this is
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
and just giving you permission to write down whatever or not you're wrestling through as you're in scripture.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Mike, you've had a big transition over the last. What year did you retire now?
18. So, well, it's coming on like 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you find that you have the most fulfillment? Obviously, being a dad, husband, but where do you find most of your fulfillment in, like, outside of what hockey gave you? Where do you find that now?
Yeah, I would say, I love outdoors. I love to hunt and fish, and you know, I love, one of the things I did at my hunt camp, I put in like a locker room, so it's kind of like name tags
Takes you
and
back.
kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of that. That's what I wanted to create at the hunt camp.
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie, guys around, you know, uh, hunting, and so. I love that. I've fortunately been on a few retreats in the last year. One a marriage retreat, one a men's retreat. I love that. I love like seeing God work in my life and others, and I love adventure, um, and then being a part of like versus stuff, which is a stretch. Like I'll be honest, like there's a lot of distractions that can kind of get you. I think one of the things that I think that God in the last year is probably kind of is like, hey, you got to stay focused. There's a lot of good things that can kind of get me going in a million different directions. And I got to be careful because I'm flexible enough that I can do a lot of things, but I don't want to overcommit. And I also want to keep, okay, what has God really gifted me in, and just do that well. I don't need to do a million things, not very well. Or, when I was playing, I was kind of jack of all trades, master of
Yeah,
none.
utility
I was
player.
not, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's like, I kind of gotta make sure that, you know, I love being a part of, certain men's ministry. It's a stretch for me to do some stuff, to be even on stage. I don't enjoy that, to be honest, but I know God stretches me and uses me, and like, I know it's good for me, but doing things that really matter, whether it be hunting or all these trips, being around good people, encouraging each other, kind of walking through life, and
Mhm.
and most of those are around or with other, dads or people at the church, or that I just enjoy doing, and that's kind of, I think, what God wants us doing, being around other good people, and influencing people in positive ways, and it's not just about the hunt or the trip or there's so much more to it. I got to stay focused in that, not just be about the hunt or the ski trip or it's like, no, there's
Well, and God's given you
more than that.
you have an influential role, and I think a lot of guys who look up to you around here, around Nashville. And I mean, you like you just recognize that within like 25 minutes, 20 minutes of being around you. And it's like all the guys in the room respect you. Do you think that has happened? Like, is that just something as you've gone down your journey of like everything you just talked about prior? Hey, I'm just trying to be a good dad, and finding a group of friends who want the same thing. But has that something that's newer, or has always been since since you retired, of helping guys kind of get to that place?
Well, you know, I think it's been a journey since I recommitted my life to the Lord when I was like 22 years old. And it was like, okay, God gave me this gift. what am I doing with it? I was squandering it away. And then it was like, okay, my purpose is I want to be a good teammate. I want to influence my teammates. And I'm not saying I always did that really well, but that was a goal of mine. And I tried to do that. And I had good people around me to try to help me and learn and grow and be, a good leader on the ice. And and then I retire, and it's kind of, the transition was a little different. Yeah, I don't miss a lot about the game. I'm the competition, yes, because I'm very competitive. So there's parts of that, Um, but you go from, okay, I'm using my gift. God gave me this gift to play hockey. All of a sudden, one day, gone. I don't play hockey anymore. And I was doing this, I was using this big gift for God, and it was His. I'm giving Him the glory, and then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, that's gone. Now I still have a platform, but I kind of had to. And also, my wife, she's doing her thing, and she's well known and successful. Now she's the money maker, and all that stuff. So it's it was a little bit of a humbling of, okay, what, you know, I'm not, it was kind of my pride, working through that of, okay, I'm not working a real job now. But then I took kind of purpose and into, okay, I'm going to be a good dad. I'm going to support my wife. I'm going to, kind of do some of those little things really well. And then also, like, when you're playing, I didn't have time for men's groups. I didn't have time, church, yes, here and there, but I didn't have time to go on a marriage retreat. I didn't have time to, which I know not a lot of people do when they work and they have family and stuff, but
But
now
if
I
you're
have a little more
intentional, you can
margin.
do it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You got to make it a priority. So I've tried to make some of those things a priority, which has really helped in marriage and, you know, being a dad. And those are the goals. And I'm telling you, I mean, I don't always do it perfectly. And, I got my stuff just like everyone else. So,
No.
yeah.
No, hearing you guys talk about, and for the guys listening, before I say this, I am from Southern California. I have never been hunting in my life, but hearing Mike talk about hunting, I think the amount of times I've asked you the most dumb questions about hunting, and it's just like, what, is that a question, John? And I'm just like, yeah, what do you do with the thing? Like anyhow.
We'll change that. We got to change that. We got to get you.
Okay, hypothetical,
Yeah, now
Mike.
you're in Tennessee.
Yeah, I know. Tennessee's making a real man out of me. I know. We will get there, Mike. So on that note, let me pose this question, though, this hypothetical. One day, we're in the new heavens and the new earth, and Jesus comes up to us, and he's like, Mike, sorry, buddy. We don't hunt here. We are vegan. So,
you not read Genesis?
Tell me, how would you respond to Jesus?
He just went back on his word. Take your bow and quiver and go and get your meat, do everything you need to do. So that's definitely obviously a hypothetical.
That's
not happening. But that'd be disappointing. But I'm sure there'd be lots of other.
That's a new level of faith for you.
That would definitely. You know what? So, I mean, yeah, that'd be tough. But I will say one of the things that struggle in marriage that my wife and I had early on was she does not like hunting. So that would have been like my wife coming to the room year 2 of marriage, being like, this isn't like, she can't stand hunting. And her dad was a hunter, but one of the reasons is her dad took her hunting when she was young, brought the thing home, brought the doe or buck home. It was on the front lawn. She went out and cried with it when she was young. And it's like, what are you doing? And kind of scarred her.
Yeah, that'll create an emotion.
So anyway, working through, she knew I was a hunter when she married me, but she thought
she probably knew that even during dating.
Well, yeah, of course, obviously. So she thought that, in her mind, maybe that I would stop hunting. Right. And then in my mind, I'm like, well, she knows what she's marrying. Like, she'll learn to live with it. So there was a lot of tension.
How long did that tension?
So here's what ended up happening was, got to a point where it's like, man, this is just not worth it. So I said for one season, which is a hockey season, so I don't hunt a lot during the hockey season, but still I was like, all right, hon, I'm not going to deer hunt this fall because I want you to know that you're more important than hunting. And I was hard. I had some good advice from someone though, because I don't know if I could have, I don't know if I really, you know. So what that did though was she was like blown away. And I think it was this tension between, am I more important than hunting? It wasn't even really about the hunting, I learned later. It was like this thing that I think she thought was more important than her at the time. And it was this tension we were working through. And I was like, Lord, this is going to take a miracle. And so that went through one season, and like she thought she couldn't believe it. And then next year she's like, I don't want it. You love to do it. I don't want to take something away that you enjoy so much. And then we kind of had this compromise for a little bit, and then I was like, okay, the next really hard thing is going to be kids, boys. I was like, she's not gonna want me to take my boys hunting. Are you kidding me? This is gonna be hell. Nope. Almost the opposite. Like it's unbelievable how God's just kind of worked through it all, and now she's okay with me taking the boys, and totally, never saw that ever before, but we just kind of worked through it, and it started because I was like, okay, you're more important than hunting. It was really hard to do. My pride, all this thing. And I had friends who were like, you crazy? You're not going to hunt because you're like, and I'm like, oh, this is something that, I felt like God
there's
was,
bigger things than that.
I felt like God was like, hey, you need to, and sure enough, that's kind of slowly God kind of worked it all out. So anyway.
No, I mean, but see, like, it's stories like that, Mike, that like how God put that on your heart and how you modeled that. I think in many ways, guys see that about what the work you're doing with understanding your own emotions, like voice of the heart stuff. Like, I think guys know that you're doing the hard work. Friend group around you and other people around the church, they see that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's, you're kind of like the leader from the front that just, you don't have to be the loudest. You aren't, but you walk it. And that's what's most important. And so, no, that's,
Well, I try for sure, but I always pray all the time. Just don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. Just stay the course. Be around good people. Work on all those things that we've talked about, and just try not to get distracted because it's hard. And that's us guys, from money to all the things, just don't stay focused. And, but for me, the lifesaver has been that God has put these people. He's worked in my life in a lot of ways. It's like, holy cow, but he's put the right people in their place at the right time. So that's where it's really important for, men to just be around the right people, be around the right godly people. And really the goal of our Christian faith is not to get to heaven. It's to be more like him. And we do that by spending time with him and spending time with other godly people. And those are like,
you will become the people you hang around with,
yeah,
and you will become the person that you spend what you are with your time.
Yeah.
So if you're not in the Word, if you're not praying, if you're not even seeking out like godly counsel and godly community, I think that's for a lot of guys who, I think they want this, but it actually takes sacrifice.
Well, and it's hard though. Like I mean, a lot of times the shame is our worst. Man, I feel like crap because I'm a bad Christian, and that's really hard. Knowing that, man, we don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
I've struggled with porn for a long time, playing days, and that lots of things, alcohol, and all these things, and it's like the shame eats you up, and it's like just digs at you. That's why we need people talk through these things, talk through all these things. I had people in my life that knew everything about me.
Yep.
That I needed that, because if not, the shame just knocks you down, And knowing that, man, we don't need to be perfect.
No.
Thank the Lord, God used misfits in the Bible, that's just like you and I, and it's like, man, but it's so easy to try to, that's why we as men have to get good at not covering up,
Sharing.
not the perfect Instagram life, the real life stuff, And it doesn't mean you share your, with everyone. There's safe people that we need. And it's funny, you learn, oh, you're the same? Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Been there.
I'm beat down right now, or I'm tired, or I'm whatever. I deal with same things, And it's just kind of, we got to get comfortable at, which I'm learning and I'm trying, and I'm not saying I'm great at, but just getting comfortable with my weaknesses and letting people know that don't always have it together, but grace of God, I'm trying.
What was that like when you were in your early 20s and like I mean, you said it like there's shame attached to like you had a lot of freedom at a young age.
Mhm.
It's funny that's like seems to be a theme in some of our podcasts of like there's a lot of freedom that comes with whether you're a musician or professional athlete, but that's just true of once you go off to college, right?
Mhm.
Even for non-professional athletes, I mean, I had freedom and it wasn't great.
Yeah.
Um, what was that like to go through all that and then having to share that like with a spouse and like did you feel shame in even communicating that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some fear attached to it, 100%. Yeah, but the freedom on the other side, holy cow! It takes wisdom, right? Timing, but my wife knows
Mhm.
everything about me, and there's a freedom in that,
Absolutely.
and not like pretending, that, so and that's being truly known by your wife, right? And me truly knowing her, and that's the goal, right? But yeah, I mean, I carried a lot of weight too as like a Christian athlete too.
Mhm.
At a younger age, it's like, hey, I gotta have it together. I gotta do this. I gotta speak here, give my testimony. I gotta, all those things where it's like, man, I'm just like a 19, 20 or 25-year-old kid, really, that's still, and I, everyone knows I'm a Christian and I'm not perfect. And, so there was a weight to that too, that, and some of it's good because if you feel the weight, that's good. And it also, there's some accountability to that too. But you don't want to just not do stuff because, you want to follow the Lord because he's saved your life and he's, worth chasing after. And we're, not just because of fear of what people think of you,
Yeah.
So there's that,
Fear can be a good motivator, but it's not really healthy when you're not acting out just because of people's
yes,
perceptions of you.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause that's not who you really are.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
it's
And and I've been there for sure.
yeah. Well, how old
So
were you in the porn and pancake story when you showed up to the pancake breakfast and you got into porn? You talked about porn addiction.
I don't remember that. A friend of John and I told this story not long ago. He asked me to speak I remember the thing. He asked me to speak it was in front of a few thousand people at a Sunday. It was a morning breakfast at a music festival. So he wanted me to go give my testimony in it, So I go give my testimony, and I don't remember. Apparently, I was overly honest about, struggling with porn and kind of working through that, and some of the things that I don't remember,
Little did
but
they know with their pancakes, they were getting a good, nice porn talk.
but it's, yeah, I didn't remember that, but we had a
Yeah,
good laugh.
that
He's
was
like,
good.
he was not ready for that. I was like, I was trying to be honest. I don't know,
But is there
because
a shadow? I mean, like we've already hit on it a little bit, but like how much of that shadow side to being that Christian athlete do you feel like even now you're kind of unwinding in a sense of I can trust people to see other people outside of Carrie to see that hey, I'm just like you.
yeah,
Or do you think you've not moved past it, but you just that's not the same level of
well, there takes some
concern?
wisdom though too, and who you trust and who you don't, and um, who you want to be around and not. So that is just kind of living life that kind of we all deal with. Kind of same thing, I guess. But I guess I'd be more cautious now than before. Just but we have great friends and family, and I mean we're so fortunate to be a part of this community at Rolling Hills. We have so many good friends here that we trust and love, and um, that this area, I mean, this is home and our kids' school, and all those things that try to never take for granted, for sure. So,
What advice do you have for young dads out there?
man, I mean, for me, I guess I just be around other dads that you want to be like, that have kind of been through the trenches like you have been. Try to be around those people, because it helps, when you're going through some of the difficulties, to know that there's other guys that are in the same thing, or I have a hard time sometimes. I only have two boys, and then I got friends that have 4 or 5. I'm like, holy cow,
I don't know how a few of our
and it's
friends do
like,
it.
yeah, I don't know how they do it, but it's like, man, and some of them are, crushing it. Some are,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean,
Put down your phones and be
I
with your
would.
kids.
Phones is huge, yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm passionate about too with our kids, is trying to keep them away from some of the technology and stuff. And we don't really post stuff. I don't really do social media anymore, but try to keep our kids away from that as much as possible. Give them kind of a normal, childhood. And this technology keeps creeping into lower ages. I think it's really destructive. So trying to be for that too. Like, we just took away TV during the week too. We don't do TV. It's amazing what it does for your kids' behavior too. Now my 5-year-old, since we did that, which they never watch a ton because we get stuff going on, but if they know they can go home and watch it, then they're not like my 5-year-old now. He goes home and he grabs his BB gun. He goes outside, and I'm not kidding you. Goes outside, he's with his BB gun, shoot stuff, and like, this is, and then my 9-year-old Isaiah go play basketball, do whatever if we don't have taekwondo that night or whatever, but they got to go out and do stuff that we did. So that is
The
good.
playing outside in the cul-de-sac experience,
Yeah.
it just isn't around as much anymore. So it's absolutely the same thing. Like, we bought a house in a cul-de-sac for a reason, because we're like, nope, dude, you got to go out there and experience a
Yeah.
real childhood.
Yeah.
And that's almost a part of our role as dads, is to like plan dad trips. Where, like, I look forward to the day that it's just me and Noah going on a trip, and when I have that, daddy daughter trip with Maddie. And I think being a wise, godly parent is probably going to look different as it looks different than it was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, it's being present with your kids in a way that they actually know they're loved and not just given something.
Mm-hmm.
And time together, even going to a park, is far more valuable than TV time together.
Yeah. 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 I love, now at their age, now we can go duck hunting, we can go turkey hunting, deer hunting, and those are trips usually too.
Yeah.
So those are fun too. Yeah. Those memories of those types of things. But
Are you going to give them smartphones at all?
no, not till I would say no social media till 18. No smartphones probably till 18. They can get a flip phone or now that it's easy to say they're in 3rd grade right now, but we've been actually working with some parents and at our school, and try to get a lot of parents on board, just to have like, let's bring back, what we had in a way that makes sense. And why are we doing it? This is important. Our kids know we're not, there's zero reason for your kid to be on social media. Zero.
Who are they trying
Like,
to be
if you
seen
look
by?
at the data right now, it is staggering. But what happens is everyone else has it. They don't want Johnny to not have it. Well, you got to get parents together, and like, this is really, really important for our kids. And we as parents need to get more courageous. We need to step up and lead in a way, that's taking this seriously. Because if you look at what it's doing to anxiety, depression for our kids,
Amen.
like, it could be the greatest health threat to our kids.
The
But
comparison
we
trap
just kind of, and even in a Christian community, we kind of just like, well, it's going so fast that we're not catching up to it. But I think you'll see in the next year or two, with even more and more data coming out, that's like, oh wow, shoot, this is way worse than we ever thought it was.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, some of the data comes out for more of young girls' mental health, and that's been very clear. But it's going to be gaming
for boys,
on the
gaming side, yeah.
And this is going to lead to comparison trap for these young kids who now they're growing up through their young teenage years into their adulthood, just whether it's on their phone or next door to saying, this isn't good enough for what I have. Look what they have.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a really difficult issue that if we don't talk about it as parents with our kids now, we're setting ourselves up for a lot of heartache in the future.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah.
We touched on young dads. So the guy who's out there struggling right now, maybe he doesn't even have kids. He's just trying to figure out his faith. What advice would you give to him?
I mean, I can't tell you how many times that, I would say just talk to God, pick up the Bible, start reading and say, God, just, if you're real, show me. And he will show you. I promise you. Just be honest with God and say, show me. And he always does. And one of my favorite verses of the last few years is Jeremiah 29:13. You'll seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. When you seek the Lord with all your heart, every time, it's not even without a question. He shows up in whatever way. He's done it a lot of times in my life. And so that person that's like struggling, that just God show up in my life and get honest and real with them. And he will show up every time.
Mike, thanks so much for being on. I know you're guys, Mike will probably be jumping in and out of episodes as he wants to. He doesn't like the mic. If that's okay. We love him for it. But he's with some guests, he'll probably jump on and we'll have a good time. So Mike, thank you for being on these early episodes of the Versus Men's podcast.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having me,
you, man.
buddy. Enjoyed it. Thanks.